So what is growth design? Growth design is a fairly recent term, and perhaps because of that, it's understandable that many people have never heard it before and quite frankly have no idea what it means. So let me explain. So there's only two words, and the first word is by far the easier, growth. I think we're all pretty clear on what growth means. It means the expansion of something beyond its current state. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in terms of different areas of growth for business. Then we look at the word design. And for some reason, design is one of those strange words that no one seems to really agree on what it means. In fact, I've asked probably hundreds of people over the years, what does design mean for them? And I've yet to receive the same answer twice. Now, as a lifelong designer, I thought it was pretty important that at least I understood what design was, at least for myself. And actually, my first book, a long time ago, written a very long time ago, took a deep look at this. And I'm not going to bore you with all the details of that. In fact, I might produce another video to go into more history of that and how it came out of the division of labor and it led to a huge growth in global output and things like that. But for this video's purpose, I'm going to narrow it down to just one sentence. That design is the creation of goods, products or services for the benefit of other people. And that's the critical bit, right? It's for the benefit of others. Now, as such, I would argue that every business by definition is coming up with, at least commercial business, is coming up with goods, products or services for the benefit of other people. And as such, design is the critical tool, element of business. So just as an example, one of my favorite designers is Madonna. And whilst many people wouldn't think of Madonna as a designer, for me, she is absolutely a designer. For me, she has evolved her music over the years, over the decades, to at least attempt to meet her market using different production people, going and speaking people, or at least her researchers are to people on the street, what they're listening to, incorporating hip hop and other genres of music into her music. So for me, she is a designer because she is consciously creating products or services, in this case music, for her audience, for other people. So now we understand what design means, we can much better understand the phrase growth design. And perhaps you've now guessed we can use design techniques and ideas to change things in the business that we think is going to lead to the most growth. So one person might hypothesize, well, if we iterate and improve this product here, we think that could lead to X% of growth. Somebody else might hypothesize, well, actually, whilst that might be true, we think the biggest impact to the business would be made if we made a second product. So maybe that product is being sold for $100. I'm just picking a random price here. What if we created a second product around the $1,000 price point? Clearly we won't get 100% of those people upscaling, upselling to that product, but even if we get a small percentage, that could lead to a much bigger impact to the business. So whilst the phrase growth design can be quite confusing, the process is actually incredibly straightforward. There's just 3 simple steps to it. So let me jump over to a graphic here. So the first step is idea. It's coming up with an hypothesis, an idea why we think if we change this, that might lead to a growth in the business. That might be a small iteration around the product, or it might be something much more strategic about the whole business. Then we've got to go and test it. Now, depending on what that thing is, that can be easy to test or sometimes more difficult to test. What we're looking for here, where possible, is to make MVPs, like minimum viable products, or simple, easy ways to test this idea and get feedback. And that feedback can take different forms. It might be about asking customers, it might be putting them into a room and consulting with them. It might be producing a web page and looking at data and results and how many people are paying or downloading the item. The data and the feedback will of course change depending on the product. But in any case, there's always going to be a review process afterwards. What is the outcome? Is there a clear win or a clear loss? Or maybe it's a little bit more cloudy and that needs a little bit more depth. Maybe it needs more testing to reach a conclusion. So once you've completed those 3 steps, it usually quite clearly leads you to a further hypothesis, a further idea. Maybe it's an iteration, but sometimes you might reach a conclusion. You might reach, actually, there wasn't much movement on that. Maybe this particular aspect we've been looking at is quite highly optimized already. We might be better turning our attentions to another part of the business, maybe a second product or a joint venture or another element that you want to move the dial on. So let me know if that helped you understand what growth design means, and give me a thumbs up and let me know. If you think there's a better definition or you think there's other critical points that perhaps I've not talked about in this video and maybe I should elaborate on, then let me know in the descriptions below. If you have any other questions, please feel free to get in contact with me and I'll do my best to help you there. All the best. Bye for now.